This didactic material is meant for the personal use of the student only and is copyrighted. Its reproduction, even for a partial utilization, is strictly forbidden in compliance with and in force of the law on the author's rights.
Hello everybody, my name is Paolo De Paoli. I am a researcher, a teacher at university level and a consultant to private and public organization. The topic of this course, as you know, is on leadership and change management. The lesson that you are going to attend now is on leading and managing change. The topics that we shall cover during these lessons concerns organizational change, main areas involved, drivers, and resistance, causes and strategies to overcome restraining factors, Lewin's field theory, socio-technical systems, change management and action research, organizational learning. The objectives, three objectives. The objectives of the lessons are to understand the main drivers of change, to become aware that there are restraining forces to change, to learn basic techniques to lead and manage change. These objectives and these topics are important, in my opinion, because change nowadays is one of the the most important events or situation, the most commonly found situation in all countries and in all cities, I would say. Globalization, and especially the economic and financial crisis in the year 2007 and the following economic crisis in 2008, provoked a number of changes in the overall setup of the international economy, and therefore also the enterprises, the companies that actually work on the international arena were influenced by what has been happening to the economic world. Other events are, that have happened, that have taken place, concern the social evolution of and political evolution of the world relations, and of course that implies that also large corporations, but also smaller enterprises that are within the supply chain of biggest corporations have to take into account what is happening, and they have to undergo change. So change actually, and turbulence is the other crucial name in this situation, and the concept in this situation, are actually the two main issues that are to be faced by organization. So organization try for what it's possible to plan change, or to plan organizational change. Let's see what we mean by that. What is planned organizational change? It is a process used by organizations to modify their present situation, into a future one in order to increase their effectiveness. The purpose of this process is to find new methods to employ resources and competencies to increase the ability of the organization to create value for the shareholders and stakeholders, of course. Now, I stress modify. What is planned organization change? It's a process. So a process means that it's a sequence of actions that you want to implement so that you can modify the situation that you are in, that your organization is in, and reach a better performance for the benefit of your customers and for the benefit, of course, of your shareholders. So you have to find new methods. Now, new methods. New methods means that you have to innovate. Now, if you think for a moment that innovation is not only product and process innovation, but also it is a marketing innovation, commercial innovation, and organizational innovation. So these four kinds of innovation concern new methods, new techniques, employ resources. Now, a technology is a resource. You employ new technology if change the market means to acquire new technologies to make a new product, or simply you have to have the more advanced information systems in order to be able to serve far distant markets, or in order to be able to supply partners in, for example, virtual enterprises, if you're part of the virtual enterprises. Now, what are the drivers of change? Competitive drivers, economic and political assets, emerging social and demographic issues, ethics. Let's comment on each one of them. It's just something I already said, but I want to stress the competitive drivers. Now, when a crisis is on the go, like it has been going on for the last at least 4 years, and it will probably be going on for some other time, when the cake is smaller, then you have to fight harder in order to get your slice, the part of your cake. So there are competitive drivers that force you to change. Business as it used to be, because of the crisis, because of technological innovation, don't allow you to stay and do business just the way you used to. Economic, political, and global assets. So competitive drivers in your industry within an overall situation which is not favorable. So maybe you were used to have a cheaper oil supply if your industry is high energy, uses intensive energy production apparatus, and therefore this overall general economic, political, and global assets do affect both the competitive scene and actually the resources that you are acquiring. Now, there are emerging social and demographic issues. All these things are related, right? So people buy less because of the economic crisis. Probably your goods or services are going to be bought less. Enterprises, firms close, are shut down. People are unemployed. They have less money to spend. Demand shrinks. The demand for your products or services shrinks as well. Demographic issues overall the world, there are migrations. People that change and move from one country to another one. Migrations are noticeable from Africa, for example, onto Europe, and it's just an example. But it's one of the demographic issues. Another one is the growth of an aging population, which has a consequence on the national budgets concerning how their retirement is handled. Of course, there is the fourth point, which is ethics. Now, demographic issues and economic crisis raise ethical problems. When are you going to lay off people? So change is how you handle, how you manage people. And there are other emerging topics, which is, for example, when you approach differences. That is, when you have to handle, for example, gender problems or disabilities. So the overall problems in ethics is how your company is addressing diversity. Main areas involved in change: human resources and their competencies, technology, organization. Let's comment briefly on each one of them. Human resources, of course, if you're speaking about leadership and change, you lead resources and organization. Human resources and their competence, if you're changing your products, if you're changing your services, if you are changing the technology that you are using, then the human resources that you have need to be trained for the use of the other technology. They have to be trained to understand the new way your organization works. A number of changes affect the way you manage or lead people within your organization and the way they lead or they and the way they have to learn new competences, new way of doing things. Now, I underscore technology because this is now over 20 years that information and communication technologies have been transformed the workplace. They have transformed organization. Companies, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, and when we're saying small and medium-sized enterprises, we are speaking of actually firms which have, at least for European standards, not more than 250 employees. Now, 250 employees, but on the average, especially in industrial districts are specialized areas which are actually specialized in manufacturing, that is apparel industry or shoemaking. Now, this smaller firms are involved in virtual organizations, that is, they take part in ventures that last a varying amount of time, but which is enabled by the evolution of ICTs. So, how you handle technology, especially ICT, but of course not only ICT, right? It is crucial when you want to understand what competences your human resources need in order to exploit the opportunities that a technology offers them. Now, one point is, why did I put technology and organization clause together? The organization, in fact, can be thought of as not only as a structure, that is all the functions, top management, from human resources to logistics, etc. But organization is the act of organizing, that is, of deciding who is doing what, where, how, and when. It is a process that is continuous in time. And organization is not that is something that can be thought of as separate from technology. It's not that you have the organization, you adopt a technology, and the organization can go on in an independent way. That is, it is not affected by the adoption of the technology. In fact, it is also true the opposite, that no technology is adopted by an organization without being adapted, without being, to a certain extent, customized to the need of the organization. So we say that there is an interplay between organization and technology. And this interplay is, of course, handled by human resources and their competencies. So, if technology changes, we said before, the world is changing, turbulence, crisis, drivers concerning demographics, concerning competition. Everything is changes. The overall interaction of these three elements is what drives your change, the change in your organization. Now, we want to address one point that is very important. Now, we said that change is something that cannot be or should not be avoided. Like they say, if you don't change, they will change you. That is, if you don't change as an individual your expertise, then you probably will not be needed any longer by your company. If you as a unit don't change or update your expertise, you don't contribute to the innovation process of your firm, probably that unit will either disappear, or the people, that is you, that belong to the unit, will be dismantled, and you will have to go to some other unit and find a new job within the company, or at worst, outside the company. So change is something necessary, but it's something that is not easily achieved. It is not easily achieved because we have a natural propensity to, that is the way we are built, to go by routine. That is, if we found a way to do our job, our work in a proper way, we have a good performance, we are used to do a sequence of things that are acceptable, or more than acceptable, are considered excellent by me, by my team, and by my supervisor, or the leader, then my tendency is to specialize, to refine what I am doing, and along with time, I will not be able to change as easily as maybe I think that I can change. That is, the routines that I have experienced and that thus far have been satisfactory for both myself, my colleagues, and my supervisor, or top management, if I have middle management, or if I am a leader, maybe it's not easy from there to go on and change them. That's why one speaks, we speak of resistance to change. This is the next slide. Resistance to change is at different levels, as I just said now, introducing this slide. Resistance at the organizational level. Power conflicts, mechanistic organizational structures, organizational culture. Team level resistance, individual level resistance. These are the basic types of where the basic resistance can be found. Power conflicts. Now, my function was my production. I am in the production. I am the responsible of the production system. I've done a good job. All my people did a good job. I have to, some pressure are coming from top management to enter new market. People from marketing asked me to develop a new product. They want it ready in 3 months. I cannot have it ready in 3 months if I want to have the same quality, superior quality that has been a success factor thus far. Now what happens that I have to change the products because marketing is saying so and top management is supporting it. I am not agreeing with that, so there is a power conflict. Who is right? Is the marketing department or is it me? But change has to be undertaken. The power conflict, while I agree, while I negotiate with the marketing department the proper time, and at the end of the negotiation, well, it won't be 3 months, it will be 4, then all the time that I spend in negotiating, that is the waste, let's say, that you need to overcome resistance to change, because we are both two functions that are necessary to organization. We have a power, and the power sometimes expresses itself as a way to stop change. Now, power conflicts we've seen. Mechanistic organizational structure. Mechanistic means that it's a structure, it's an organization that works by routines, by strict routines, by sequences. They're very good at processes, we are very refined, but the hierarchy is very precise, rules are respected by everyone. When this kind of organizational structure is in place, together with a certain type of rigid organizational culture, then it is very, very, very hard to, you can expect a lot of resistance to change. Team level resistance. Well, the thing is that, making example of the product or service that you were, that I was saying before, maybe you had a high-performing team that that designed that product that was so successsul. Then there is a crisis, and that product is not any longer the one that goes. Some other product is going to come out. So maybe you dismantle the team. You take 2 best performers and you send them to another team to develop a special part, and 2 of them you send it to another team yet. So you dissolve the existing team. They resist because they're used to work with their colleagues. Maybe they don't accept to interact with the new ones as easily. Individual level resistance is an important factor, because if you think ourselves, we are all used to do things in a certain way, and if we are satisfied, especially if we are satisfied with the way things are going, it is not so easy to be convinced that we have to change. So only when we are forced to change, but we do that change. But that's why the role of a leader comes in, because the leader is the one that shows you that, well, you have to change, but you have to trust me. I give you a vision that is saying, well, if we go on this way, we have a satisfaction now, or we will have a higher level of satisfaction in a year's time. Or, all right, I understand that you are used to be satisfied with your work every month or every 2 or 3 months, whenever you see your performance level and you see that your products have been sold at a certain rate, which is higher than the previous one. So you have to trust that this change will not be useless. So this individual level resistance, it is rather important. And of course, resistances go both ways, from the organization onto the individual and vice versa, of course. Let's see, in the next slide, we are going to see something interesting. That is, causes and strategies have been studied. That is, what are the causes of the resistance, and what are the strategies that have been studied in order to overcome it? Here we are. We look at the causes of resistance here: surprise, inertia, misunderstanding, emotional side effects, lack of trust, fear of failure, personality conflicts, poor training, threat to job or status security, work group breakup, fear of poor outcome, faults of change, uncertainty. Strategies for overcoming: education, participation, facilitation, negotiation, manipulation, coercion, discussion, financial benefits, political support. Now you see all these X's. Now I didn't put the names of the authors because each one of this list of these X's, of these marks, have been discovered by researchers that studied the causes and strategies to overcome resistance to change. So actually, in this slide, it's compared the work of 5 authors. But the important thing is that if you look, one of the most important as a cause resistant to change is the lack of trust. Another one, even more important, is threat to job status or security. Status is, okay, you are in a certain position within the organization. Now, instead of being in this position, you become a project manager. That is, this project will be successful, you become a project manager, you won't have anymore your chair with those tasks, but then you move from one project to another. If I am a high-level manager, do I want to become a project manager? My status probably will be affected. I'm not sure that I will gain from it. Job security refers, of course, to also to other, to the majority of employees. Is the change going to affect my job security? But then we have what I was mentioning to you before: fear of poor outcome. Then you have, I would like to draw your attention of misunderstanding. Sometimes people are not in favor of some changes because they misunderstood, because the communication level within the enterprise, within the organization, was not the one that was not effective enough, so that people didn't quite grasp the objective of change, and therefore they resist to it. Uncertainty. We don't know the outcomes. What's going to happen? We are uncertain. We said before, if we are in a turbulent environment, if there is uncertainty about what's the outcome of the economic crisis, then we are uncertain, so we resist change. Who is going to guarantee me that the changes that we are going to undertake are going to prove themselves better for me than better for me or better for the organization? If I don't trust the management or leaders, then I am dubious. I say, well, I don't trust them to be as innovative as they say they are. Now, all of these strategies work. I would like to underscore participation, education and participation, especially if we think back of the former slide, when you have the interaction of for change, the main areas involved, which were human resources, technology and organization. Education and participation are fundamental. because you have, especially in technology and in organization, which we said they are intertwined, if you don't have people that are educated and then participate in the customization of especially information and communication technologies, then you have poor results. So these strategies, especially in high innovative kind of enterprises, are crucial. Facilitation, in other words, managers that understand that you have some difficulty in understanding what the change is about. The competence that you require, the new competence, are not so easy to be acquired. So facilitation, things made easier for you are a good help. Negotiation, right. You don't want, because of personal reasons, to be transferred to that country where we have a company there. Well, we can negotiate maybe, well, of course, the unit you are in now is dismantled. So, well, we can negotiate, and instead of that country, you can go to another country where maybe you have, you think you're going to be better off. Maybe your wife speaks the language, or your husband, if speaks the language, etc. Now, manipulation, now let's go on. When we speak about discussion, it's partner of participation in education. And then, of course, you have negotiation. Coercion, well, if you want to stay in this company, you have to do that. If you don't want to be laid off, we tried all the other ways, but if you don't accept it, you have to coercion. Manipulation is not that. It's done in some ways. I make you think that maybe I work on you. I'm not so sure myself. I am your manager or your leader. I'm not so sure that things are going exactly in the way that I am telling you, but I'll have you believe that they will. So in a way, I'll use your trust, and I'll use the fact that you believe in what I said. I manipulate your good faith and your trust so that you accept beyond, that is beyond what you would decide if you really knew the uncertainty that I know. So I manipulate, but that's a technique that is used anyway. We come to the next slide, which is two types of change, of course. It's not that you have either one type or the other one, of course. It's that you have some in between. Two types of change, incremental or radical. Incremental. The change is piecemeal and gradual, as, for example, in total quality management. Radical. It is a drastic and rapid change that involves many elements in the organization, e.g. business process engineering, restructuring, downsizing or right-sizing, and innovation. Now, here why did I put in parentheses? Because radical innovation, now incremental, I mean, you've been, I don't know if your companies or you participate in total quality management, but it's a characteristic of total quality management of doing small changes towards refining your product or your service step by step. You improve by studying it with precision and with the involvement of all the people that are interested in that process, in improving by with small changes, improving the quality of that particular process. Of course, in order to satisfy the end consumer. Radical is drastic, so it is what actually brings the most resistance to change. But here, why did I put in parentheses innovation? I mean, business process engineering is self-explanatory, because if you're going to redo all the process of your firm, Then at the end of re-engineering all the processes, there may be some functions that are going to be shrinking, and some other ones which are going to be instead enlarged. Usually, when you do the business process engineering, the purpose is to have a downsizing or a reduction in the number of people employed. Not necessarily so, but that's usually what happens. Innovation, I put it in parentheses because not all innovation, as I said, there are 4 types of innovation: product, process, product, commercial, and organization. So if you change the organization and you charge a team, and you say that in production a team has to be dedicated to total quality management, it's an innovation, but it's not a radical innovation. It's a piecemeal innovation. So innovation can be both radical or incremental. There is a theory that concerns resistance to change. It's a theory that was developed in 1951, and it still holds, and it's still interesting, let's say. Now, Lewin's field theory, he wrote this book, Field Theory in Social Science, in 1951, and you have on one side performance and on the other side time. What does he say? That you have the forces that we have seen, restraining forces, the ones that resist to change, and we've seen them before, driving forces, competitive forces, bottom line, government regulations, shareholders that see that their dividends are not as high as they want. So these restraining forces and driving forces are conflicting, and this fight between these two forces goes on until, through appropriate support, until a new level is achieved, a new performance level, which was at this, which was here, it goes now higher on to here. But to achieve, you need time. And therefore, time is money. And in this time, you have to do all that you can in order to implement those strategies that we have seen before in order to overcome resistance to change. Now, socio-technical systems, well, still in the years 50s, but then it was developed even all along. Socio-technical system says, and it's based on the fact that you have an interaction, human resources and technology and organization, says that you have to be careful because social systems and technical systems interact. So people interact with the structure, but interact with the tasks, interact with tasks. Tasks interact with technology. Technology is related to people, structure with tasks. Now, this means that you cannot think, you cannot think of moving one of these elements, that is to intervene on, let's say, technology, without thinking if the tasks have to be changed accordingly. If people that are carrying out those tasks have the right competencies, and if the structure of your company is good at supporting people in learning the new tasks, or if in the structure you have the appropriate people capable of handling directly this technology. This is the socio-technical system theory. I put this MIS, Management Information Systems, in order to insert ICTs. ICTs impact directly to technology and to tasks, and of course, according to the socio-technical system, also on people and structure, as we said. Okay. Change management. For Lewin, what we've seen before, Lewin's theory about resistance to change and the field theory. Let's go on to the next slide. Change management. For Lewin, instances of successful change show three phases. First, an unfreezing or disruption of the initial steady state. Then a period of disturbance with trial of various adaptive possibilities, and finally a period of consolidation of change with a refreezing in a new steady state. Action research is a method through which you can do this. So the first step is analyze the present state of the organization. The second is identify the future state. The second. The third is implement plan action. The fourth is evaluate action. The fifth, institutionalize action research so that in the future you can go back and analyze the future state in order to change to a further change. Which means, why did I say, here we go. So we have the unfreezing part is when you analyze the present state of the organization. Unfreezing means you question what you've been doing so far. Disturbance is when you identify the future state, you implement action, and you evaluate action. You have a situation of uncertainty here in this part. In refreezing, you institutionalize the action research. So what do? You say, we acquired a new state, performance is higher, so we refreeze. It's all right the way we work now. So we are ready for changing in the future when we shall evaluate that the environment or our competitors or the markets require us to undertake these changes. So this is this action research supposedly takes you to the plateau of a new performance level in time. Now, these processes of unfreezing, of disturbance, and of refreezing are not painless. In the sense that unfreezing is when all the doubts come out to people. Is when you are saying that what you have done so far, you as a company, you as a unit, you as a team, you as an individual, has been good, sometimes excellent, but you have certain signals from the market, from the bottom line, from somewhere, that it is not probably good enough, or it will be good enough for another couple of years, but then something will happen that will reduce performance. So you have to think ahead. This is where you decide the unfreezing. You decide the unfreezing, and that's where people start wondering, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my expertise? Now, at this point, if you are, the reason why action research is successful, or one of the positive aspects of action research, is that you start from a very uncertain moment, turbulence, but if you say, look, we are going to identify the future state, we are going to implement the actions, we are going to evaluate the actions, and in doing this, we shall involve you in this process of change, then people say, right, I understand that I have to change. I understand that what I've done so far was excellent, but I understand also that it will not be excellent any longer in the future. So if they are involving me in this change, they are going to negotiate it, they are going to make me participate, they are going to discuss all those strategies to support change. Then, if we identify together, not only at my expenses, we identify together what we are going to do, then, and we are going to implement together and to evaluate together with the participation of all the people, what the planned actions, the outcome of the planned action, then, even though I don't know now what is going to happen, maybe if I trust my leaders, if I trust my managers, maybe I am willing to take part in this process, in this disturbance level, because it's not a disturbance in real terms. Once I get into it, it's a way for me to participate and actually build the future together with my colleagues, with my managers, with my leaders, with my company. In other words, my loyalty to the company, I give my loyalty to the company because the company is loyal to me. The company includes me, discusses with me, evaluates the action, obviously with different roles. I mean, top management overlooks the whole process, and different management levels have different kind of responsibility in this process. Then the other thing is, well, the other good aspect of overcoming resistance of action research is that you institutionalize action research, this refreezing. I mean, this is the wording used by Lewin. Refreezing means that, okay, we found out that what we did was good, that it's got good prospects. Then we know that in the future, if we'll need to change, we have a method that is going to assure me that I won't be left behind, that I will be able I will be able to be part of the process of change. Now, action research is part of a general strategy in which there is organizational learning, OL. Traditionally, organizational learning is the process through which managers try to improve the willingness and the ability of the members of the organization to understand and manage the organization and its environment in such a way that decisions are taken which are able to constantly improve the organizational effectiveness. Although, now, this is the general thing. Although managers certainly aim at changing, establishing way of thinking and acting through implementing particular plans, nonetheless, change in organizations occurs without necessarily intentional managerial action as a result of individuals trying to accommodate new experiences and realize new possibilities. Now, the meaning of this the second sentence is that no matter what, you do change. In fact, we do change just for the reason that time passes. We go through new experiences, we grow. So change is something that in fact is not unavoidable, is unavoidable. It cannot be avoided. So if it is unavoidable, you have to look at it in a positive way. And if you consider your organization as a learning organization, then change is necessary. Maybe change is difficult, but is something that you better anticipate and lead, because otherwise change will lead you. So you better be a leader than a follower when change is considered. Right. Concluding comments. We have gone through the drivers of change and main resistance, and some of the elements that are restraining change. Furthermore, we have understood that there are several kinds of change. All of them must be led and managed. There are appropriate techniques that support us in addressing such issues. Thanks for your attention.